Scientists' DNA tested a 7,200-year-old mummy. What they found changed everything. Hello, and welcome to Ancient History. Dear friends, archaeology has always held a unique fascination. Sometimes, all it takes is a single bone fragment, a clay pot, or a forgotten tomb buried beneath the earth to completely overturn what humanity once believed to be true. But every now and then, archaeologists uncover discoveries that go far beyond anyone's imagination, find so extraordinary that even the most experienced scientists are left astonished. To prove that, in today's journey, I'll take you through a series of mysterious archaeological discoveries, from strange Roman cemeteries in England and a 3,400-year-old brain surgery in Israel to the enigmatic Scythian women warriors, ancient settlements in Canada, and a remarkable jade treasure found along the Silk Road. Most astonishing of all is one discovery that forced scientists to rethink the history of an ancient people: the DNA analysis of a 7,200-year-old girl's mummy. The results not only revealed the young girl's unexpected origins, but also raised profound questions about prehistoric human migration and the civilizations that existed thousands of years ago. So, what is really hidden beneath the ground? What stories have these ancient remains been silently preserving for thousands of years? Let's begin our journey of discovery right now, because the deeper we explore each remarkable find, the more you'll realize that the history of humanity still holds countless secrets waiting to be uncovered. The 2,500-year-old perfectly preserved mummy of the Ice Princess that challenges everything science knows. You know, the world of archaeology has always been mysterious and fascinating in its own unique way. There are discoveries that take scientists many years to fully understand, but there are also discoveries where, from the moment an ancient coffin is opened, everyone present immediately realizes they are witnessing something truly extraordinary. And that is exactly the story of a woman who lay beneath the frozen ground for more than 2,500 years, yet whose body remained almost perfectly preserved. This discovery not only shocked Russia, but was also considered one of the most important archaeological events of the 20th century. To better understand the story and the mysteries surrounding this remarkable mummy, let us travel to the Ukok Plateau, located in the Altai Republic of Siberia, Russia. This region sits at an elevation of more than 6,500 feet above sea level and is famous for its year-round freezing temperatures. Its layers of permafrost accidentally became a natural freezer, preserving secrets of the past for thousands of years. In 1993, an archaeological expedition led by archaeologist Natalia Polosmak began excavating an ancient burial mound on this plateau. At first, the team only expected to uncover a few artifacts or perhaps a set of human remains, just like many previous excavations. However, what appeared after layers of soil and stone were carefully removed left the entire team almost speechless. Beneath the wooden structure of the coffin was a burial chamber that remained almost completely intact. The most remarkable detail was that the grave had never been disturbed by grave robbers. For more than 2 millennia, the site had remained completely sealed beneath the permafrost, allowing nearly everything inside to remain in the same condition as the day the woman was buried. One member of the excavation team later recalled that the experience felt like opening a doorway leading directly back into the past. The ice inside the burial chamber had remained frozen since it first formed thousands of years earlier. It was this unique natural environment that allowed the woman's body to be preserved in an astonishing condition. Her skin, hair, parts of her soft tissue, and even her clothing were still intact, making her one of the most complete mummies ever discovered in Siberia. Soon after the discovery was announced, international media gave her a mysterious name: the Princess of Ukok, also known as the Ice Maiden. Through extensive research, scientists determined that the mummy was approximately 2,500 years old, dating back to around the 5th century BC, and belonged to the Pazyryk culture, a nomadic society that once lived across the vast steppes of Siberia. According to Maria Charisheva, a guide at the National Museum of the Altai Republic in Gorno-Altaysk, this woman most likely belonged to the Pazyryk elite. However, her true identity remains a subject of debate among researchers to this day. What particularly fascinated archaeologists was the location of her burial. Unlike many other members of the community, this woman's grave was separated from the ordinary burial areas. This detail led many experts to suggest that she may have been more than just a noblewoman. she may have also held a special spiritual role. Among many ancient pastoral communities of the Eurasian steppes, shamans and individuals who performed religious rituals were often buried separately to reflect their unique position within the tribe. Further discoveries made this theory even more interesting. Through chemical analysis, researchers found traces of mercury and copper inside the mummy's nasal cavity. According to some experts, she may have inhaled compounds containing these substances during rituals intended to create altered states of consciousness or spiritual experiences, a practice that existed in some ancient cultures. In addition, the mummy was found wearing a tall, elaborately crafted headdress that was very different from the typical clothing worn by Pazyryk women. This became another reason many researchers believe she played a special role in the spiritual life of her community. But the most astonishing discovery was found directly on her body. When scientists cleaned the remaining layers of preserved skin, they discovered a series of highly detailed tattoos covering her arms and shoulders. The designs depicted mythical animals with curved horns, moving deer, and other creatures created in the distinctive artistic style of the Pazyryk people. To this day, these tattoos are considered among the most beautiful and complete examples of ancient body art ever discovered. However, the greatest mystery was still waiting to be revealed. Inside the burial chamber, archaeologists discovered 6 horses buried alongside the woman. This was an extremely unusual detail. According to Pazyryk traditions, the burial of multiple horses was usually reserved for individuals of very high status, often tribal leaders or male warriors. The fact that a woman was buried with 6 horses convinced archaeologists even further that she was not an ordinary person. For many years afterward, modern science continued working to uncover the life story of the Princess of Ukok. Researchers conducted DNA testing, magnetic resonance imaging, MRI scans, and analyses of the preserved soft tissues. The results showed that she carried genetic characteristics closely related to ancient European populations. Scientists also determined that she had a height of approximately 5 feet 5 inches to 5 feet 7 inches, quite tall for a person living 2,500 years ago. However, what surprised doctors was her extremely thin body. She weighed only about 108 pounds. According to Professor Andrei Letyagin, this was very different from other Pazyryk elite mummies discovered before, which usually belonged to individuals with stronger and healthier physical conditions. After numerous detailed examinations, scientists finally discovered the reason. The woman had suffered from advanced breast cancer during the final years of her life. Not only that, evidence from her skeleton suggested that she had also suffered an injury caused by a fall from a height while traveling with her tribe. Yet what touched many researchers was that despite suffering from a serious illness, she was not abandoned. Her people continued to bring her along during their migrations across the high grasslands of the Ukok Plateau and cared for her until the final days of her life. Inside the tomb, experts also discovered cannabis, which was likely used as a medicinal substance to help relieve pain before her death. This discovery changed the way we view the Pazyryk people. They were not simply fierce nomadic warriors. They were also a community capable of caring for the sick, supporting their members, and possessing surprisingly advanced knowledge of medicinal plants and spiritual rituals. After more than 2 decades of research at the Novosibirsk Institute of Archaeology and Ethnography, in September 2012, the mummy of the Princess of Ukok was transferred to the National Museum of the Altai Republic in Gorno-Altaysk, where she continues to be preserved under special conditions and remains one of Russia's most famous archaeological treasures. However, if the story of the Princess of Ukok amazed the world because of the incredible preservation of her mummy, then the next discovery is even more shocking. This time, archaeologists would enter the tomb of a Scythian king in Siberia, where they found not only a woman covered in gold buried beside the tomb's owner, but also 35 skeletons of attendants and 14 horses. The discovery revealed a dramatic and bloody burial ritual that was so astonishing that even ancient historians recorded it with disbelief. Now let us explore this incredible mystery together. The 2,500-year-old tomb filled with weapons belonging to Tagar warriors. If in the previous chapter we witnessed the deeply emotional story of a young mother and her twin babies from 7,700 years ago, then this journey will take us into a completely different era. This was a time when horseback warriors dominated the vast Eurasian steppes, where weapons were not merely tools of battle, but also symbols of power, honor, and social status. You know, when archaeologists excavate the tomb of a warrior, they usually expect to find swords, arrowheads, or finely crafted daggers. This is not particularly surprising because many ancient cultures practiced the tradition of burying the dead with objects they had used during their lifetime. Ancient people believed that when they entered the afterlife, they would still need familiar possessions to continue their journey. However, in the Minusinsk basin of southern Siberia, Russia, a new discovery forced archaeologists to ask entirely new questions about the burial customs of ancient people. Here, archaeologists uncovered a tomb dating back approximately 2,500 years, belonging to the Tagar culture, a civilization that flourished from around the 8th to the 3rd centuries BC. The Tagar people are considered a branch of the Scythian world, a group of famous nomadic communities that once lived across the vast steppes of southern Siberia. As soon as the first layers of soil were removed, experts realized this was not an ordinary burial. Inside was not just one individual. Instead, the tomb contained the remains of 4 people, 2 adult warriors, 1 man and 1 woman, an elderly woman estimated to be around 60 years old, and an infant who was less than 1 month old. The arrangement of the skeletons alone was enough to make archaeologists stop and carefully examine the site. The adult man and woman were placed lying on their backs beside each other. Next to each of them was a large ceramic vessel, as if these were important objects they needed to carry with them after death. But the most remarkable detail was the number of weapons buried alongside them. The man was buried with 2 bronze daggers and 2 battle axes, while the woman also possessed her own set of weapons, including a long-handled weapon that experts believe may have been a warhammer or battle axe. In addition, the tomb contained many other artifacts, including bronze knives, bronze mirrors, and a small comb made from animal horn. All of these objects were valuable possessions for the Tagar people 2,500 years ago. At first glance, many people might assume that burying weapons with warriors was completely normal. But for archaeologists, the surprising detail lies in something much smaller. According to Professor Oleg Andreevich Mitko, head of the Department of Archaeology at Novosibirsk State University in Russia, the Tagar people traditionally buried their dead with miniature versions of real-life objects. Small swords, tiny axes, and miniature tools were usually symbolic, representing the possessions that the deceased would carry into the afterlife. Therefore, discovering full-sized weapons inside this tomb was extremely unusual. It suggests that the people buried here may have held a special social status, or that their burial ceremony was completely different from the traditional customs of the Tagar culture. However, the mystery does not end there. Among all the artifacts discovered, the object that attracted researchers' attention the most was the woman's weapon. According to previous archaeological records, Tagar women could also be buried with weapons, but in most cases, these were only arrowheads, symbolizing hunting skills or the ability to defend themselves from a distance. Mysterious skulls, found at the foot of a pyramid. 13 skeletons were found just over 12 meters from Structure 18, a pyramid-like monument located south of the main temple of the site. The archaeologists found the bones buried about 0.3 meters deep and began determining their identities and what had happened to them. The Maya were known for sacrificing war prisoners, but it's unclear whether these newly discovered skulls actually belonged to war captives. However, we can be certain that the individuals were aged between 17 and 35, and they were likely buried between 600 and 900 BCE. 2 of the skulls showed clear signs of violence, with cross-cut marks on the bone near the cranial sutures. These marks suggest the use of a sharp instrument to remove the skull because the neck and lower jaw bones still maintain their anatomical relationship. However, it's difficult to determine whether the injury caused the death or was inflicted post-mortem. Archaeologists also determined that 5 of the skulls had an unusually elongated shape, likely due to intentional deformation from a young age. This purposeful deformation was carried out by the Maya, as well as other ancient civilizations in Asia, Europe, and the Americas. Researchers believe that the elongated skulls may have been associated with higher social status. Additionally, examination of the remains revealed that some of the men had cavities, likely due to their maize-heavy diet, and some of the bones were covered with red pigment. These 13 men's remains offer fascinating insight into life and death at Moral Reforma, once an important settlement for the Maya. This city began as a key trade hub around 300 BCE and grew from there. Between 622 and 756 BCE, the settlement reached its peak, covering an impressive 215 acres, where the Maya built palaces, plazas, and pyramids. The city was eventually abandoned around 1000 BCE. However, much remains unknown about this site, including its original name. It was allied with other Maya cities, including Calakmul and Palenque, and the Maya built 76 architectural structures there. Many archaeologists believe the men buried at the foot of Structure 18 may have been sacrificed to appease an underworld god, but it's still unclear which Maya deity this pyramid was dedicated to. As archaeologists continue to explore the site, they hope to uncover more answers. Until then, researchers will continue to search for clues in the bones and teeth of the sacrificial victims buried at the pyramid hundreds of years ago. The Black Coffins, weighing hundreds of tons. Recently, researchers have uncovered a set of extraordinary black coffins within the tunnel system beneath the Temple of Saqqara, near the Djoser Pyramid in Saqqara, a famous necropolis near the ancient city of Memphis in Egypt. These coffins, each weighing up to 100 tons, were crafted from Aswan granite with such precise and refined cuts that many believe they might be the work of extraterrestrial beings. According to Egyptologists' theories, Khaemweset, the son of Pharaoh Ramesses II of the 19th dynasty, ordered the excavation of a tunnel through the mountains in the area, with sealed chambers on either side containing large granite coffins. The purpose of this burial site was to preserve the mummified remains of the sacred bull Apis, which was considered the earthly manifestation of the god Ptah in ancient Egyptian culture. The temple was discovered by researcher Auguste Mariette, who found the head of a sphinx emerging from the sands of the desert in 1850. Mariette cleared the sand and followed the large road leading to the burial complex. Using explosives to clear the obstructing stones, he excavated most of the site. Though records of this process were lost, Mariette's work continues to be studied by modern researchers. Scientists also believe that there are many other unexcavated coffins containing mummified bulls, which could open up further discoveries about ancient Egyptian culture and history. A 9,000-year-old human skull coated in bitumen mysteriously appear in the middle of the desert. Imagine this. In the middle of a barren desert, where sun and wind slowly erode everything over time, people suddenly discover intact human skulls that have existed for nearly 9,000 years. Not scattered bone fragments, not broken remains, but carefully preserved skulls, deliberately treated as if someone in prehistoric times had planned for us to see them today. How would that make you feel? I honestly can hardly imagine it myself. At times, I even struggle to believe it's real, and I think many of you might feel the same way. But this is not imagination. This discovery truly happened in the real world. The story begins at Nahal Himar, an archaeological sanctuary hidden deep within the Judean desert in southern Israel. This region is known for its extreme climate, dry, scorching, and nearly lifeless. Yet, paradoxically, these very harsh conditions became a kind of guardian of time, preserving organic artifacts that would have long since disappeared elsewhere. When archaeologists entered Nahal Himar cave, they discovered a total of 6 human skulls, all in relatively good condition. But what puzzled researchers most was this. Only 3 of the skulls had been carefully coated with bitumen. Radiocarbon dating revealed that these skulls date back to approximately 9,000 BCE, meaning they are nearly 9 millennia old. The extremely low humidity of the Judean desert prevented the bones from decomposing as they would in other environments. And the 3 skulls coated in bitumen were even more extraordinary. The bitumen layer not only preserved their shape, but also acted like a form of protective armor, shielding the skulls from environmental damage and the passage of time. According to detailed descriptions by the Israel Antiquities Authority, IAA, ancient people followed a very specific process when treating these skulls. First, a thin layer of bitumen was applied to the back of the skull. Then, pre-prepared strands of bitumen were layered on top, forming an interwoven, net-like structure, resembling a kind of cap placed over the head of the deceased. Clearly, this was not a random act. It was a deliberate ritual, carefully planned and rich in meaning. So why were only 3 skulls treated in this special way? Scientists believe the answer is closely tied to ancestor worship during the Neolithic period. The individuals whose skulls were coated in bitumen may have been revered ancestors or people of exceptional importance within their community. They were not merely remembered for a single generation, but possibly venerated across many generations, becoming spiritual symbols for the entire group. Another hypothesis suggests something even more striking. These skulls may have served as symbols of land ownership. Around 9000 BCE, Neolithic populations were rapidly increasing, leading to intense competition over territory. Preserving and venerating the skulls of ancestors may have been a way for a lineage to declare, "This land belongs to us, from our ancestors to the present day." Of course, this remains a hypothesis, and no one can say for certain. But if it is true, then the bitumen-coated skulls of Nahal Himar are not merely archaeological artifacts. They may represent the earliest evidence that humans possessed a deep awareness of power, territory, and ancestral identity thousands of years ago. And if that's the case, hasn't our understanding of ancient history just been fundamentally challenged?